name's Adrien, and this is the week 5 video. I have to defer requests to take outside because it's raining, and Mark doesn't want to go outside with the computer equipment and the video camera to deal with this, and I completely understand that. First of all, I want to apologize to those of you that are overseas about the assignment for Ishmael. We're going to work to see if we can't put this novel online. Part of the problem resides with me, and that I'm new at this. I'm coming into a course and having to plug in assignments and getting the proper readings and developing the ideas that I would like you to think about has been tricky at best. But I feel very strongly about you reading this particular book because I think it illustrates many of the problems that we encounter in terms of globalization, which is your chapter in Foucault and Possum this week. And in particular, as you read through this, I would like you to look at the focusing questions at the beginning of the chapter, and particularly the last one. How does globalization influence local environments? How might cultures and local knowledge influence globalization? As the stock market has pointed out to us over the last couple of weeks, globalization has some very serious downside consequences. And as we have watched the markets in one country reflect on how the markets in other countries perform, it's very easy to see that globalization has tied us together in ways that we did not anticipate. And consequently, it has ramifications that I think are very serious and need to be looked at quite closely. As international educators, we are in the position of actually propagating the spread of globalization. And we're also in the position of now being driven by market forces. In other words, we have a lot of considerations that we make that are determined by the economics of the situation. And that has some very serious consequences. I am particularly concerned about how those consequences play out in the environment. For example, China, in its efforts to globalize, is now building coal-fired energy plants at the rate of something like one a week. That's a scary proposition in terms of the environment. So Ishmael is a book that talks about two different views of the planet and the way we should regard human beings related to other species and to greater environments. One of the other questions that comes up for us is going to be, what is the effect of globalization on culture? And whether or not we're going to become monolithic in culture, or there is going to be some way to protect cultures as we globalize. By the way, there are two other attachments I put on, Wikipedia attachments, that have to do with chaos theory and the law of unintended consequences. And the reasons these are up there are because often we will put out a policy or develop a policy or develop a strategy related to what we can conceptualize is going on. And very often, in fact, more often than not, we have spin-offs in other directions that take us to places that we didn't predict and create situations that we cannot control. And scientifically speaking, it used to be considered that all things work the same in all aspects of whatever the paradigm was. But now we see with chaos theory, with the law of unintended consequences, that very often we get spin-offs that are quite devastating. And personally, I have major concerns about some of the spin-offs we're creating with globalization that could dramatically affect the planet. And so as you read through chapter 8 and look at chaos theory and look at unintended consequences and read Ishmael, I hope you'll gain an appreciation for some of the things that we may actually create through globalization that going to have serious, devastating effects on other parts of the human condition, and particularly the human condition for people that have very little control over what's going on. Chapter 8 also has reflections about the readings that you've done previously, which include things like access and accountability, the role of teachers, the purposes of education, and some ethical considerations about how these things are going to impact other parts of the world. So I hope this week will give you a chance to look at your countries and recognize that there may be impacts that are coming with globalization and a greater awareness of international education that are significant and yet not predictable. So enjoy the week. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me. I'll do everything I can to get a copy of Ishmael up and scanned, and hopefully that will take care of problems and issues. But if anything comes up, let me know. Thank you.
Okay.